Hey everyone, it's Yasin. Welcome to this beginner-friendly course on Express.js. In this course, you will learn how to set up a server, build routes, handle data and serve files, use middlewares to extend functionality, and learn error handling. By the end, you will be ready to build your own web apps and APIs confidently. Let's dive in and start coding.
Express.js is a powerful web framework built on top of Node.js. It is designed to make creating web servers and APIs much simpler and faster. So, why should we choose Express.js? Because it simplifies development. It abstracts away the complexity of Node.js, letting you focus on building your app. It's highly flexible. You're not locked into a specific structure or set of rules. You decide how to organize your app. It also has a large ecosystem. From authentication tools to database connectors, Express has plugins for almost anything you will need. So let's look at an example. So to show you how simple Express is, I wrote this little code here. So don't worry, in our course, we are going to cover everything you see here. So in just a few lines, we have set up a functional web server, and that's the beauty of the Express. It's concise yet powerful enough to build anything from a simple website to a complex API. Since we understood what is Express.js and why we should use it, now we can go to the part where we set up our Express.js. Before we start, you will need Node.js installed on your system. Node.js is the runtime that allows us to run JavaScript outside of the browser. You can download it from nodejs.org, and inside nodejs.org you can go into the download part and choose your operating system, macOS, Windows, and here is the instructions, and download Node.js. And after downloading Node.js, to confirm you successfully downloaded it, open your terminal, write code node version and write code node v to see your Node.js version, and same for the npm, and double check if you successfully downloaded these two. So if you're getting an error here, it means that you couldn't successfully download these. So next we will create a new folder for our project. So you can create your folder on the terminal like this, but we are gonna just simply use the Visual Studio's UI. So let's create a folder, and on the terminal, let's go into our folder, and now let's initialize a new Node.js project. So let's npm initialize. So this code right here creates a package.json file, as you can see here, which keeps track of all the dependencies we will use in our project. So this is the default package.json file. So this is where npm saves details about your project and dependencies. Right now we can install Express, npm install Express. So this command downloads the Express library and saves it into the Node modules folder, as you can see here, which is where npm stores all project dependencies. If you check the package.json file again, you will see Express listed on the dependencies, as you can see here. This is the Express version we use for this tutorial. Okay, so let's create an entry point file. As you can see, index.js is our main file, which is our entry point file. In any Node.js project, we need an entry point file where the app starts, and by default npm sets this to index.js. So let's create our index.js folder. Index.js. So let's write some starter code, and we can start our code by writing const express require express. So what does this do? This imports Express. This line brings in the Express library we installed earlier. Think of it as unlocking all the tools Express provides. Okay, so we also, let's create app instance const app Express. So here we create an instance of an Express application. This instance app is the core of our application. It allows us to define routes, add middleware, and start the server. Okay, so let's define our port now. Const port 3000, let's say, for example. Okay, so let's add our first route. So a route tells the server how to respond when it receives a specific request. Let's add this route, app.get request response, and let's send a response here, hello world. So this line here sets up a get route for the route URL. A get request is the most common type of the HTTP request, and it's usually used to fetch data or a web page. So, and right here we handle the request. So the callback function here takes two parameters, request and response. So you can think of request as the incoming message from the browser and response as the outgoing message the server sends back. Okay, and right here we send a response, and this line sends a response back to the client. Like I said, in this case we are sending a simple message, as you can see here, but you could send a HTML, JSON response, or even a file here. Okay, so let's actually start our server by listening on our port. So we write app.listen, we write our port as we defined earlier, and let's create our callback function. It actually finished that for us. Okay, so as you can see, we listen on the port and we defined it 3000 early, and this actually tells your server to start listening for requests on the port we defined earlier. Without this, your server won't run. So this part here is the second argument, a callback function that runs when the server starts successfully. Here we are using to log a message to the console to make sure that the app is listening. So okay, so let's run and actually test our server if it's working. So we can write node index.js. So we should see this message right here on our console. As you can see, we saw it here. This actually means that our server is running now. So now we can open our browser, localhost and 3000, and as you can see, we got our response hello world that we defined here. So basically our browser sent requests to this route, and as a response we got the hello world response. So why this matters? This simple example demonstrates the fundamental flow of an Express app. Import the library, create an app instance, define routes to handle requests like here, and start the server. This is how we do it in Express. Now that we've got our Express server running, let's expand it by adding more routes. Routes define how our application responds to different HTTP requests. Each route has 3 key parts: the method, the path, and the response. So before we start, let's actually start using nodemon. So if you're wondering what nodemon is, first of all, install it. And if you're wondering what nodemon is when you save the file, it actually restarts the server for you, so we don't have to manually just keep terminating the server and just start it again. So after installing the nodemon, you can come into package.json and let's create a command for it, and let's do start nodemon index.js. So we can just come and write npm start, and nodemon is gonna start our server. So basically when I save this file, as you can see, it's restarting the server, so this is gonna make things easier for us. So let's actually add another route to serve a different message. Okay, so let's this one add an about route. Okay, so let's do about, and let's send a response. Yes, about page. Okay, so now we can go into our browser and go into the main route, and as you can see, we are going to see the hello world here that we defined early. And now when we go to about route, we are going to see the about page. So this is how we do normal static routes. Okay, so now let's actually handle a JSON response in Express.js. Okay, so now let's create another route. And by the way, JSON response are very useful for APIs, so I'm gonna show an example, a little example about how we would use it for APIs. So let's do it. By the way, before we start, let me briefly explain what JSON is. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's a lightweight format for sending and receiving data. And like I said, it's commonly used in APIs. Okay, so now let's do app.get, and this one let's do like API users. Okay, and let's right now define this, and okay, so now let's delete this, and let's actually create a variable in JSON format. Okay, so okay, let's create 2 users here. Okay, in JSON format, 3 is fine too. This is, and after doing that, we can send JSON as a response by respond.json and our variable. Okay, so now when we go into this route in our browser, we are gonna get a JSON response. Okay, so let's try it out. Okay, let me correct this. Okay, so as you can see, when we went into this route, we got a JSON response, and this is like Express actually makes it so easy to send JSON data with response.json method, and this automatically sets the correct content type application JSON in the response headers. So it's very common in APIs, and this is how we handle JSON in Express.js. Okay, so now let's add another route, and this time let's handle the query parameters. Okay, sometimes you might want to handle dynamic data in your routes. Okay, so that's why we are going to use this one, app.get, and let's do greet and request response, and let's create our route. Okay, now let's use queries, and let's do const name equals to request query name, and let's send a response saying hello, and let's add the name in here. Okay, so when we go into this route, it's just gonna say undefined because there is no name query. But let's edit a query, and let's call it name, and let's make it Yasin. And as you can see now, instead of undefined, it's saying Yasin because it's taking the query name as we defined here. So this is how we handle query parameters in Express.js. Okay, now let's add let's handle dynamic route parameters, and dynamic route parameters let us capture specific values directly from the URL. So let's create a route for fetching a specific user by its ID. Okay, so let's do app.get, and let's do a one like this, users ID, and let's write our function. Now what we can do here is, so this ID, this part here, it's a part of the path that acts as a placeholder. So any value in that position will be captured as a parameter. So you will see it by example right now. So let's do const user const id rec.params.id. Okay, so now let's send a response here. Response send and user id. Okay, so now when we are on the URL and add our ID, like I said, it acts as a placeholder. So instead of this ID, let's write an actual ID number. That's 5. And as you can see, as a response, it returns the ID. Okay. So with these examples that we have just done, we've covered different type of routes you can create in Express. So static routes like this about one, JSON responses for APIs like this one, and query parameters like this one, dynamic route parameters like this one. Okay, since we added some more routes, let's switch to middle layers. Okay, so middleware is one of the most powerful features of Express.js. It's essentially a function that runs between receiving a request and sending a response. Okay, so middleware can handle tasks like logging, authentication, parsing data, and or like serving static files. So what is middleware? Middleware functions in Express are like layers of an onion, and every request passes through one or more middleware functions before it gets to the final route handler. Okay, so a middleware function takes 3 arguments, and they are request, response, and a next function, which is specific for the middleware. Okay, so let's write an example middleware. We use it like app.use, and let's just put request, response, and next. And let's alright, okay. GitHub Copilot suggested us this. Okay, so this next function here tells Express to move on to the next middleware or route handler. If you forget next, the request will hang here and not complete. Okay, so middleware is useful for logging requests, passing incoming data. It can be JSON or form data, and it's useful for handling authentication and authorization, and it's useful for serving static files. Okay, so since we added this custom middleware into our project, and let's actually test it. So let's go to gd server npm start. Okay, so let's log the request. Give me a second. Localhost 3000. Okay, so as you can see here, it sent us the time. So basically every time a request hits the server, this middleware here is logging us the time. Okay, so that's basically how middleware works. Okay, so middleware is executed in the order it's defined. So place general middleware like logging at the top before your route handlers. Okay, so this is basically how middlewares work. Okay, so every time I send a request, as you can see, it's sending us the time, logging the time, and into the console. And yeah, so there is also built-in middlewares, unlike this custom one. And Express comes with like some built-in middleware to handle common tasks. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So there is a built-in middleware for serving static files. So static files are things like image, CSS, JavaScript, or any file you want to serve directly to the browser without processing. Okay, so let's actually create a static folder here. Okay, let's call this one public. Okay, and let's create an index HTML file in that folder. Okay, so let's just write here a basic HTML code. Okay, so let's go into our index HTML and let's use this built-in middleware app.use express.static and public. So this tells Express to look for static files in the public folder and serve them directly. So how does this work? So this works in a way that when you visit index.html, just like you can see here, Express automatically serves the index.html file from the public folder, and there is no need to write a root for this, as you can see. So you can organize CSS, JavaScript, image or other assets in the public folder for easy access. Okay, and this is how it handles the static files. Okay, so there is also another built-in middleware for parsing JSON data. So Express has built-in middleware for this. Okay, we can use it like app.use express.json. Okay, so let me delete this. Okay, so how it works is when a client sends a JSON data in a post request, this middleware automatically processes it and makes it available as request.body. Okay, so let's write an example root for this. app.post API data request response, and let's write console.log request.body, so we get the body, we see the body, and let's send a response saying that data received. Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's test it. We can use Postman to test this route because it's a post request. Okay, so open your Postman or any other tool that you can send a post request and JSON data. Okay, so let me just write here localhost 3000. Okay, and let's write here API data, and let's send the post request, and let's just go body and write a random. Okay, we can just make this just include it awkward, and let's send a random JSON data and let's send. And as you can see, we got data received as a response, as you can see here, and the console log the request body, and as you can see, we got the JSON data here. Okay, so we can add a lot of things here, and it's just gonna not change anything. You can send any type of JSON data and receive it. Okay, this is what this middleware helps us to achieve. Okay, so there is also third-party middlewares. So Express also supports third-party middlewares, and these are additional libraries you can install to add functionality. One of them is Morgan. Okay, so you can just download a third-party middleware like Morgan, and you can just use it in your app. Okay, you can just go const Morgan and require Morgan, and you can just come here and be like app.use, for example, Morgan dev or Morgan tiny. Okay, so Morgan is a great logging middleware for more detailed request logs, and I just in this way I used it in my project, you know. Or we can use also like npm install helmet. This is another third-party middleware, and in the same way we can just do like helmet and require it, get it from our dependencies, and just like we can do app just use helmet. Okay, so this is also how you can use third-party middlewares, and also helmet is a middleware that adds security related HTTP headers to protect your app. So to summarize, middleware lets you handle requests in stages like logging or passing data. The Express static middleware makes serving files like HTML, CSS, and image easily, and built-in middleware like Express.js simplifies handling JSON data, and third-party middleware like Morgan and Helmet can add powerful functionality. And mastering middleware actually unlocks the full potential of Express.js, and it's actually the glue that connects all part of your app. Okay. Okay, since we are done with the middlewares, let's actually switch to error handling in Express. Okay, so errors are inevitable when building applications. So whether it's a missing route, invalid data, or something unexpected, handling errors gracefully ensures a better experience for users and makes debugging easier for developers. Okay, so there is default error handling in Express. So by default, Express handles error by sending a basic response to the client. Okay, so for example, if a route doesn't exist, Express will automatically return a 404 error. Okay, so let's try visiting a non-existent route. For example, let's just go to random route, and it just sends us cannot get response. And it just, while this is a default behavior, is fine for development. In production, you might want to customize your error messages or like log errors for debugging. Okay, so let's actually add a 404 handler in our project, and it's gonna be custom that we create for ourselves. Okay, let's add it. So let's just use app.use and request response next, and let's do rest.status 404.send, and let's do something like page not found. Okay, so, and let's not forget to test it. Okay, so let's actually try to go to non-existing route now, and as you can see, it sent us our custom message. But what about if we try to go to an existing route? What is gonna happen? Okay, so as you can see, we went to the existing route, but it still says page not found. But this is not how it's supposed to be, because we have this route. It has to say us hello world. Okay, so why this happens is because the order matters. Okay, like I said in the middleware section, this middleware should be added after all our routes. Okay, Express process middleware in the order it's defined, so this will only catch requests that didn't match any route. So let's add it here, and let's try it again. Okay, now as you can see, we got a response hello world, and let's try it for non-existent route, and as you can see, we got a response page not found. Okay, so we use response status 404 to explicitly set the status code to 404, which means not found. Okay, so now let's go to the part that for some serious errors like unexpected server issues, we can create a centralized error handling middleware. Okay, so this middleware catches errors and sends a response, and it ensures our app doesn't crash. Okay, so let's create one. App.use error request response and next, and let's do one like that, console.error.stack. This is gonna log the error into the console. Okay, so let's send the response. Okay, this 500 is for server issues, and let's send the response like something broke. Okay, so we used, as you can see, we used 4 parameters here. and we have never used for parameters before. So error handling middleware has a special format. So it takes 4 arguments: error, request, response, and next. So Express automatically knows this middleware is for handling errors. Okay, so we log the error using console.error and we send a response. Okay, so let's actually trigger this error, and let's actually add a root to trigger this error. Okay, app.get, and let's do /error and request response. Okay, and let's actually throw a new error, throw new, and let's, okay, something went wrong. Actually, let's not. This is a test error. Okay, so when we go to this root, it's gonna throw an error and it's gonna console log the error, and it's gonna send this response to the client. Okay, let's test it. Let's go to the error root, and it tells us the page is not found because we had to write the root before this error handler. Okay, so let's go to our browser. That's error. Okay, so error is, this is a test error. Okay, so we did something wrong here because it was not supposed to show that to the like so we actually were supposed to see a custom error as a client, not this, and that's also probably because you gotta write this before the middleware. And now if we try again, you're gonna see that something broke, and as you can see, our middleware shows it. Okay, so something broke is the part is coming from our error handling middleware, and it's console logging the error step. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's refresh the page, and as you can see, it's logging the error to the console and showing the client this something broke message. Okay, so for real world best practices, you gotta separate development and production in error response. Okay, so in development you might want to show detailed error messages. In production, keep error messages generic to avoid exposing sensitive information to the client. Okay, or you can just use libraries for advanced handling. So you can consider using third-party libraries like Express async errors for better handling of asynchronous errors, or Winston for structured logging. So to summarize, we added a custom 404 handler for unknown roots. We created centralized error handling middleware for unexpected issues, and we tested error, just like here, handling with an intentional error. Okay, so mastering error handling ensures your app is robust and user-friendly and easier to debug. Okay, so let's wrap up everything we've covered today and talk about what you can do next. Okay, so we started by installing Node.js, Express, and creating a basic project structure right here. We wrote a starter code. We wrote a simple Express server that responds to the requests and sends responses. We added some other routes. We learned how to define routes for static paths, use query parameters, and handle dynamic route handlers like here. And we used middlewares. We explored the power of middleware, from logging requests to serving to static files. We learned error handling, and by the end you built a fully functional Express.js app that can serve pages, handle data, and even log its activities. Okay, so what can be next? So here are a few ways to take your Express knowledge further. So you can explore middlewares more, like try integrating third-party middleware like Morgan or for logging, or Course for handling cross-origin requests. Okay, so you can build a REST API, use Express to create endpoints that interact with database, returning data in JSON format. You know, you can integrate a front end, combine your Express app with a front end framework like React, Vue, or Angular. And you can also learn authentication. So you can explore tools like JSON Web Token or Passport.js to secure your app. Okay, so Express.js is just the beginning of your web development journey. And with the skills you've learned today, you're well on your way to building robust and scalable applications. So thanks for watching, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you found this helpful. Okay, and don't forget to leave any questions or comments below. Okay,